of the Philippines has claimed victory in the country's presidential election. With 92% of the ballots counted, Rodrigo Duterte has a huge lead with nearly twice as many votes as his nearest rival. Now, he built his reputation by crushing crime in the city of Davao, where he served as mayor. He supported killing suspected criminals without trial. For many, it's an uncomfortable reminder of the Philippines' authoritarian past. But Duterte makes no apologies. As president, he says that he will be a, quote, dictator against evil, targeting criminality and drugs. He also wants to ban under-18s from going out after 10 p.m., and he wants to prohibit drinking for anyone after midnight. He's pitched himself as an anti-establishment candidate, planning to devolve power from Manila and return it to the regions to tackle the elites he calls self-serving and corrupt. When he reports from Davao City.
The politician known as the Punisher is no longer an unlikely presidential candidate from the south. Rodrigo Duterte took his no-nonsense message to the people of the Philippines, and they liked it. The 71-year-old is happy to put a divisive campaign behind him.
I'd like to say that I'd like to reach my hand to my opponents. Let us begin the healing now.
His two closest rivals conceded heavy defeats, including former Interior Secretary Mar Rojas. Now attention is turning to what sort of president the former mayor of Davao City on the southern island of Mindanao will be. His win marks a major shift for politics in the Philippines, which has long been dominated by the establishment in the capital, Manila.
Rodrigo Duterte is talking big political changes, including a rewrite of the constitution to allow for a parliamentary system. And if he doesn't get the support of Congress on certain issues, he says he'll shut the doors and lead a revolutionary government.
That's raised concerns about a return to dictatorship 30 years after a successful uprising against President Ferdinand Marcos. Since then, governments have been mired in corruption and bureaucracy. Despite recent economic progress, some believe that perhaps full democracy hasn't worked.
I think the Filipinos are willing to accept the guidance of a very strong leader for as long as this leader will show faithfulness to the interest of the basic masses of people, create opportunities.
While in charge of Davao City, Duterte adopted a zero-tolerance policy on crime and drugs that allegedly resulted in more than 1,000 extrajudicial killings. When he's inaugurated, he says the same rules apply, promising it'll be bloody.
Like access.
Human rights workers say it's been a difficult job investigating the many unexplained deaths in Davao City.
The problem we have always been confronted is the absence of witnesses or the lack of it. Witnesses who are not volunteering to cooperate in our investigations.
Duterte's methods may be questionable, but Filipinos view him as someone who gets things done. Opponents warn the Philippines will enter a period of instability under his leadership, but many voters are clearly willing to take that risk. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera, Davao City.
So to get more on this election and the new president, joining us live in the studio is Dr. Lee Jones, a senior lecturer at the School of Politics and International Relations at Queen Mary University here in London. Thank you so much for joining us here on Al Jazeera. So Duterte is certainly a controversial character, to say the least. If we just focus on the one thing that he certainly seems to be most known for, effectively saying that he condones and will go for extrajudicial killing. And a lot of people accusing him of being behind death squads when he was mayor of Davao, which Human Rights Watch and other human rights groups say may be responsible for the death between 700 and 1,000 people. I mean, ultimately, it's one thing to say during a campaign. Can he actually go through with it? What checks and balances are there in the Philippines to stop him from doing this?
The Philippine political system is modelled on that of the United States. So there is a separation of powers between the presidency, the legislature, and the judiciary. And the Supreme Court, at times, has stood up to presidential wrongdoing. But it can also be stuffed with appointments. So it's not necessarily the most robust institution. The best hope, I think, for making sure that Duterte does not turn into a despot is the very strong and robust civil society in the Philippines. So there needs to be clear and compelling resistance to any attempt to subvert the rule of law and to go for extrajudicial violence.
I mean, you say that the hope is civil society, but here's a man that's got twice as many votes as his nearest rival. A man that's never hidden this. I mean, you know, it's not like people have been digging around in, you know, press cuttings from 10 years ago. He's been saying it. He says outrageous things. He called the Pope, forgive my language, but a son of a whore because he got stuck in traffic during the Pope's visit, and yet people voted for him. So presumably any doubt the civil society might have, you know, has been won over by the desire for them to see something done about crime and corruption.
No, I don't think that's right. I think there was a lot of opposition to Duterte, and many people are dismayed by the fact that he's being elected. But fundamentally, his election speaks to a deep malaise in the Philippine political system. It results from the fact that the system has been captured by a few dozen political families who also run most of the economy, and the system simply doesn't work for the vast majority of Filipinos there, who are mostly poor. And so they look to someone from outside the system, a non-elite like Duterte, who's plain-speaking, thuggish, promises to shake up the system and take power away from the elites and crush the corrupt individuals. So that's appealing to a lot of people, rather than the kind of appeals for good governance that maybe come from middle-class NGOs.
Well, speaking of, you know, NGOs, I mean, many of them have already, you know, been very vocal about their dismay. Other countries have said, though, you know, he is the elected president and we will do business with him. What do you think is the biggest danger with him at the helm now?
I think the militarization of governance. He's already said he plans to stuff the administration with his close friends and appoint retired generals to many positions in government. And I think there's a risk that the army, the police become militarized, and we start to see a much more brutal approach on law and order, and that would be a real threat to the rule of law and basic norms of governance in the Philippines.
Lee Jones from the School of Politics and International Relations at Queen Mary University in London. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us. Thank you. Bringing you some breaking news now. Bangladeshi authorities have just hanged the conservative Jamaat-e-Islami party leader who was found guilty